Hey guys, I hope you're having a good Saturday. I thought I'd stop some of my landscaping and gardening work. Yeah, it's a beautiful day, but it's a little bit muggy, so I'm kind of sweaty and stuff. But I don't think you guys mind. I don't. Well, this is a story that I've wanted to recount for you guys for a while now, certainly since I started my YouTube channel. And it's a tough story for me to recount. It When it occurred, I'd been on 8 years, and the way I handled it, you'd have thought I'd been on 8 minutes. And I don't, well, I guess I'll just have to explain it as we go. It was, right around mid-October 1991. It was 1:30 in the morning. I was working along the Big Sioux River. It's an interesting river. Anyway, I was working north of Sioux Falls and north of the little town of Baltic, South Dakota, up into Moody County, which used to be my duty station, the first duty station in Flanagan. Well, I'm in Sioux Falls now, in Minnehaha County. And we had bag phones. Even in 1991, we had little bag phones in our vehicles, and they were basically cell phone bag phones. And it rang, and I kind of figured it would be one of my informants. If it weren't a coworker, it'd be one of my informants. And I was very picky about who I gave my number out to, but only the most trusted informants. So when I answered it, I go hello, and here's this tiny little frail voice. This is Mrs. Raymond Weedy. Mrs. Weedy, hi, how are you? Well, I think we have some poachers. Okay, what's going on? Well, there's a car that's parked just north and west of our place there on Ditch Road, which I knew right where she was talking. And they're just sitting there parked and the headlights are on, and I think they might be poaching deer. And I said, okay, is there anything else you can tell me? Well, no, I just be careful. She always said that, and she meant it. She was very genuine. Now, as far as Mrs. Raymond Weedy and the fact that her husband was Raymond and she was Mrs. Weedy, they've been gone a long time. So I'm not letting the cat out of the bag or anything by mentioning their name, but that's their name, Mrs. Raymond Weedy and Mr. Raymond Weedy. And it was fun to go into their place right there on the west side of the Big Sioux River. It was just, we'd coffee up and talk, and I mostly listened because they wanted some company, and so did I. They were just wonderful people, but I'd listen to their stories, and it was amazing when you farm along the Big Sioux River and any kind of river system. Especially the stories they tell, especially about flood events, it's remarkable. And they just weathered the storm literally, and they'd pick up the pieces and get back to life and farming. So that was Mr. and Mrs. Raymond Weedy. So I said, okay, and we hung up. And I was about 5 or 6 miles north of Baltic. I was already out, and I was really close. So I started heading south. And you can see by the map and all that, where Baltic is in relation to Sioux Falls. Got to hold up for the four wheelers and side by sides and such. Well, if it isn't that, it's the Goldfinch. Here's one of those side by sides. Red one, canvas top. Looks pretty fun. This is actually part of a, recreational vehicle kind of trail right here in front of my place. So they're not here very often, so I don't mind. I mean, they're having fun. Imagine that. I thought cops had ruined everybody's fun. Apparently, there's a remnant. So I started heading south. Now, this was mid-October, 1991. I just want to go through this again. Mid-October 1991 at 1:30 in the morning. And I'll show you on the map when I reached the general area, where I ingressed and how I ingressed. to a point where I could set up, even though it was 1:30 in the morning, doesn't make any difference. I was able to set up about a quarter mile north of them, shooting the spotting scope that was, was mounted to the driver's side window, shooting the spotting scope straight south. Okay, we got the map a little bit bigger there on the screen. So there's a lot going on. There's quite a few moving parts. So instead of just continuing to do a narrative, okay, down at the bottom to the left of the S or south is the RP. That's where the Wheaties live. And if you go north from their place, you hit Ditch Road. There's a little jog there. I don't know if you can see it. There's a strip north and south of green. That's trees along the ditch. And then you see the X, and that's where the suspect car was. And through the spotting scope, I could see 3 males and 1 female. And as far as the cans, I'll get back to that. So that's kind of the juxtaposition there on the south half. But let's go up to the northwest there. You see the wind direction. And I don't remember, it was probably 10 to 20 miles per hour that morning. It's from the northwest. Instead of from the southeast, which would have been advantageous for me, it's from the northwest. Well, that meant it was blowing from me to them. I was rendered deaf. And any noise I made would have been magnified just because it would have been carried with the wind. So that's something that was interesting to note, just the fact that I had to get eyes on because I had no ears. Now you see the ingress, that comes in from the west, and I ingressed up to Ditch Road. But when I ingressed, and military guys will appreciate this, I was completely blacked out. I had all the cutout switches, everything. I was black, and I was running with just an old military blackout light, or cat eye, some call them. The other thing to keep in mind is that as I was ingressing, instead of coming barreling in there and like, I needed to get an idea what was going on in the area, but I came in there relatively slow. Just said that the wind was from the northwest. So the wind was carrying whatever noise I made toward them. The reason I was driving slowly is because tires on gravel, the faster you go, the louder the noise they make. And you don't have to be traveling very fast or whatever to make that noise so loud that other people can hear it from a distance. Anyway, so I ingressed black, and I was going fairly slowly just so my tires wouldn't make too much noise on the gravel. And I hit Ditch Road, and now you can see the X where I am. Well, I've got surveillance set up. I'm looking through the scope. They're south of me about a quarter mile, and they're facing away from me, which was good. If they'd been facing toward me, I wouldn't have been able to see anything because the headlights would have washed everything out. But the fact that they were facing away from me was advantageous for a very simple reason. The beam or the wash of the headlights on the road in front of the car was bright enough that from my position, and this is why we use spotting scopes, gentlemen and ladies, from my position, I could see in front of the car a line of cans, not all the way across the road because they were parked on the right half side. The cans lined up in front of the car, lit up by the headlights. Now, what do you suppose they were up to? Yeah, that's right, which meant there was at least one gun present. So now things were starting to get a little more interesting. I'm alone. There's at least 4 people. They've got a gun, and I don't know what I'm about to get into. Well, I'll share that with you in part 2. You guys stay safe, take care, and I appreciate you guys.